Hello again. In this video, we are going to talk about the quality of your voice. And what you need to identify is what is the quality of your voice saying about you? And do you like what it's saying about you? And if not, how can you change that? Okay? So let's go ahead and talk about some of those things today. Okay, we've talked about your voice as being an instrument. We talked about that in a variety of ways. But one thing that I really like from a woman named Carolyn Goiter and her TED Talk speech about voice and confidence in our voice is down below in this lesson. So I really want you to review it. But in that speech, she talks about your voice being an instrument, and she describes it this way, and it's wonderful. She says, "Some people might say, I have a bad voice. I'm a bad speaker." And she says, there's no such thing as a bad voice, just as there's no such thing as a bad saxophone. So you wouldn't look and say, oh, that's a bad saxophone or that's a bad guitar. Okay? When we hear a great saxophonist, we know they've played a lot. They've worked and worked to get that great sound. Okay? So it's not the instrument's fault. It's the person playing the instrument that can either be good at what they do or not so good. Okay, so I like that perspective, that change in the way that we look at our voice as this is our instrument. How well are we going to play our instrument? Okay, so as we go along, we'll talk about how we can play that instrument better to portray what you want to portray. Okay, so what I want you to think about is how does the quality of your voice, or what does the quality of your voice say about you? Okay? The quality of your voice can describe you in many ways. Okay? I have a list of adjectives here. Your voice can make you sound mature. It can make you sound unsure. It can make you sound maybe casual or calming. And maybe it's easier to think of other people's voices and how you can perceive in other people's voices how they seem more authoritative, or they seem more happy or sad or angry, or maybe more formal or more commanding, maybe more confident. Maybe some people just sound so unsure of themselves and flighty or just very excited. Okay? This is what we're talking about when we say the quality of your voice is what image does it portray? Or what does it say about that person? So there's two different ways that we kind of identify the quality of your voice that are the most common ways to separate voice quality. One is your head voice, and the other is the chest voice. Now there is kind of more of a throat voice, but I think the contrasting head and chest voice is the most important. Okay, for your head voice, someone who's using a head voice, and I'll show you what a head voice is and a chest voice is. But someone who's using more of a head voice, what they tend to portray is more of a casual sound to their voice, maybe more happy or immature. Kind of a head voice is more what children use, and so it tends to give this feeling of more immature, maybe more unsure of yourself. Sometimes it makes you sound exaggerated in what you're saying, and excited. Sometimes it makes you sound a little flighty or just kind of unsure, okay? And then more caring. It can help you sound a little bit more caring and kind and considerate, okay? Now with a chest voice, here's kind of the other side of when you're using a chest voice. Here's the image that portrays. You seem more mature, more authoritative, more trustworthy. It has a little bit more of a calming effect versus the excited effect that the high voice does, or the head voice does. Chest voice can sound angry. It sounds a little bit more grounded, sometimes a little more sad or boring, depending on how you use it. More formal and confident and more commanding. Okay, so these are just adjectives that tend to describe people who use more of a head voice or a chest voice. And there's variations within this, but this is how it tends to be described. Okay, so let's talk about that head voice and that chest voice. How do we get that head voice or chest voice? Now, it all has to do with where your voice is resonating, where it's vibrating, and where in your body you're kind of feeling that vibration. With the head voice, we're feeling it more in the head. With the chest voice, we're feeling it more in the chest. So, as you would think. So let me give some examples of using a head voice and a chest voice with the same phrase. So if I said, "Hey, how are you?" versus, "Hey, how are you?" One's the head voice, one's the chest voice. "Hey, how are you?" "Hey, how are you?" Here's another example. "Are you coming to the meeting?" "Are you coming to the meeting?" And, "Are you coming to the meeting?" "Are you coming to the meeting?" Okay. "Sit down and join us." "Sit down and join us." Okay, one's head, one's chest. So really what we're talking about is the tone of our voice. When we have a head voice, we have a higher tone, and when we have a chest voice, we have a little bit lower tone. Okay? So again, these adjectives describe it because that's where our tone is going. One is head voice and has a higher tone. One is that chest voice has a lower tone. Okay, so what I want you to ask yourself is, how do you want to sound? Now, I tend to have two different groups of students that I work with. That one is they need to use a little bit more of the head voice, and one is they need to use more of the chest voice. So with the head voice, people who need more of the head voice, what I hear from them is they tend to have a very deep, low, kind of monotone, kind of they stay at that chest voice and stay in one tone in that chest voice. And for them, what I work on with them is getting more variety, kind of getting maybe up out of that chest every once in a while to create more of that feeling and passion and excitement or happiness or that friendliness. Sometimes the people who just kind of stay in that really flat chest voice maybe sound sad or formal all the time, and they're having a hard time connecting with people because they're just always so formal and stern, kind of sounding more angry or stern. So that's kind of one group that I work on with voice quality. And so that might describe you. You might need to use a little bit more variation in your tone. Now, the lesson that we just did on pace, or we did a few weeks back on pace, where I talked about the roller coaster and how we need variety in our voice, and that includes our tone, that fits this group of people, okay? The other group of people, which is a little bit more common for me, is I have a lot of my students that are saying, okay, I sound immature. I need to sound more mature and sure and confident in myself. And so that's when we start talking about using more of the chest voice. Okay, and that's what we're going to practice today. So I'm going to give you some exercises and strategies to use more of that chest voice.